Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Nature Folklore. It's 22nd of May 2022. Thank you for being with us. Well, thank you all for joining me for our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this to within your favorite sanctuary space, and expressing inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, arts, crafts, performance, and even problem solving. Now, what we have today is part one of our short two-term water folklore, and it's going to be women and water. And there's Shannon, who hopefully will be on later, and as part of one of our guests anyway. And computer's stuck already. Sorry about that. Anyway, let's get going. Yeah, I've got a stuck computer. Oh, how fun. Anyway, I'm broadcasting here at Carrowcrory as I do not have strong enough internet signal yet at Lush Dadonan. And anyway, I trust you'll enjoy this. We've got a decent signal. And we got some great guests. We got Penny Stevenson, who's going to be first up with a lovely poem. There's Penny there. We got Grace Wells back, which is lovely. Fantastic to have her back. And Sarah Humble, who's very popular with you. Got a little thing from her. Of course, we were women and water, we must do. And also, we got the Heart Song Project, and I'll explain that a bit later because that's with John Belker, and he's a composer and collector of songs and ancient charts, plus he does a lot more. And with him is singer Breedna Kushak, if I got that right. Anyway, and as I say, we got Shannon as well, the picture that you saw behind me, Shannon Michaela Dory Smith. And she'll be rounding this off because she's the founder of Women of the Water. And as usual, the folklore sessions, the videos, and tree sanctuary support are all brought to you through the support of subscribers, and how I appreciate you every week through your Patreon subscriptions, PayPal donations. It helps me to pay the monthly subscriptions to make the show possible for you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be live with this today. So let's see. Early birds we've got on the show today. Thank you for being with us. It's lovely. Sherry's here. There's Sherry. Good morning. Everyone from North Coastal Maine, 53 degrees here, very foggy. Over here is a bit of mixture of drizzle, sunshine, and a little bit of wind, and I think it's 59 degrees. So great. And through the YouTube, we got Little Wing, and who's asking Susan, how you doing? Because there's a Susan Sheldon somewhere here. Also through the Susan from Glasgow, also coming into us through the YouTube as well. Claire Roach is here, and delighted to see the wondrous John, and delighted to see that you're up. Claire is in a very different time zone at the moment. And there's Kate Cloud Sparks from Iowa, who's here, and there's Susan saying how much she's looking forward to it. Fantastic. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your support. That's lovely. Then we've got Jeannie from North Carolina, which is fantastic. And I forgot to put up where Little Wing appeared and wished us all good afternoon. There we go, from Manchester, England. And she's Fiona, by the way. There you go. Great introduction there. Fantastic. That's lovely. And I'll get right. Actually, is she here? No, she's not here. I was going to get right into our first guest, but she hasn't got on yet. Let's just check the notes to make sure there isn't a problem. No, let's see how Penny is. I'll give her a little wake up, see how she's doing. Right, let's see. I've given a bit of a wake-up call there for Penny to see if she'll come on live and join us in a moment. Right, so I better get on with something here. We got Little Wings comments here. Okay, well, waiting for Penny there. And again, I'll overcome a bit of a tech issue here as well. Now, Penny Stevenson, she's going to share a lovely poem with us, and it connects us right with the spirit of where we are now. So I hope she comes on soon to share that one. But today I'd like to start with a return to reference to some of the she folklore in connection with the water. And if I can throw some pictures up of that. There we go. That's a lovely, it's from the Cache Caves. No, it isn't. It hasn't even come on the screen yet. There you go. That's in the Cache Caves. I think that's a lovely imagery to represent some she folklore, she connection to water there. So, do forgive me. I really, right. Anyway, I'm going to make quite a bit of reference, obviously, to women and water through all of this, because over millenniums of centuries, it seems tribal and cultural formations and breakups were not really through battles. We're told of battle stories, but it seems that the changes with cultures, tribes, etc., has been through changes of water flow. And academics may simplify and authorize this to say the movement of Celts was caused by ancient climate changes at the end of the Bronze Age. Well, the Bronze Age period is not clear. That's very debatable. But it may have been between 2000 BC until 600 BC. But around 600 BC, there seems to have been a lot of population movement. And it seems that happened after a tropical climate spell that had been over this area for a couple of thousand years. And then Europe suddenly became cold and wet around 600 BC. And small villages, they became, in response to this, they suddenly became built on lakes. The Cranogs, here's a pretty picture of one here. There you go, a Cranog. That's obviously it wasn't like that when they built it. The trees come up later. But you see them around Ireland and the lakes, very pretty, and some of them you can get over to. So even those Cranogs, eventually they got abandoned. Maybe the water got high. And over in Scandinavia, which had pretty fertile land, from about 600 BC, that started moving. Actually, Scandinavia had a drought before then. And suddenly they got all this water, and peat bogs started to form over in Scandinavia. And the land over what we call the North Sea, it became a marshland. Something like that. It's actually on the edge of the North Sea, but the whole North Sea became like that after being well populated and very arable land. And of course, as we know, the North Sea, it became totally flooded, and it's the North Sea like we know today. Even the Baltic coastlines, including where Atlantis is mythologically placed, that also went through a sequence of being marshland, if it's as I say, on the Baltic coastlines, and that soon went on to flooding and became sea. So all these changes to land were caused by changed water flow and changing temperatures, and we're calling that climate change now. So climate change, it seems, caused major migrations of people, especially what we call the Celts today. And the movement of people from Brittany to what is now Britain, that is actually dated and recorded. And those Britons managed to hold on to their culture, and especially now, and it's still very present in what we now know as Wales. And they hold on to the Breton stories and call them Welsh stories. But one of the stories they hang on to is the buried city of Ys on the coast of Brittany. And the stories there are very much like Atlantis, and that's an artist's impression of that. And there's also similar folklore about Lost City on the Lough Neagh in Northern Ireland as well. And I'm just going to change the background setting here since I was talking about Cranog. So I want that Cranog at the back. That'd be nice. There we go, the Cranog picture at the moment. We'll have Shannon back on very soon. So water's not only strongly connected with the emergence of life, but also with the emergence of civilization and its cultures. And I believe the rise of civilization was definitely influenced by the flow of water. The more access to water, the greater civilization growth around it would have been. And water rights eventually, who's got the rights to water now? Rather than migration, I think it was the growing population and the water rights and the distribution that would have caused battles. That would have caused war through the ages, when the clans and tribes decided that they have the complete rights to water in their area. But as civilizations and cultures grew, water has also occupied quite a position in religious concepts, the contemplation and religious practice generally. And I think most of us, through our wisdom, understand that water is the source of life. And trees and plants can't grow without it. The water goes up and down trees, as we know, and with the sap, same with plants. So we cannot survive without water or without the trees and the plants that the water helps to create. And I believe we understand the regenerative ability of water and its power to energize fertility. And through that, we have the symbolism of water filling wombs. This is one you're probably very familiar with, and bringing about new birth. Now, we view all this as a cycle of life itself, and also that water is also a healer through all of this cycle. And we understand that the ebb and flow pattern of tides is governed by the moon. And I'm trying to get my moon up. There we go. There's a moon, because that imitates the cycles of the earth. And we still use these moon cycles very much more than we do the modern Gregorian calendar. And the moon is much more useful to us than the Gregorian calendar when we're planning sowing, harvesting, and our gardening and farming year. And we also understand that water is not something that's created. It's not it doesn't grow. The amount of water on this earth is the amount of water that's on this earth. Just the distribution changes. And no matter how water is contained or used, it's always eventually released back to the sky and down into the earth. And through the earth, through boglands, ponds, streams, rivers, and up in the sky through weather, clouds. And one big association we have is the water well. So our water is always part of rain, snow, storm, and floods. And when we die, what passes on is the water in our bodies, which are contained in our bodies, but as soon as we're gone, the water disperses and it rejoins everything else. It rejoins the earth and meets up again with wherever water flows, part of that. Now, given water's significance is found in all religions throughout the world, and there's some religious women with water there, rivers, lochs, lakes, natural springs, and holy wells, they become very much a priority in our kind of sacredness, our contemplation. And water has enduring importance with what we may call Celtic pagan practice. Water is also very well honored through the Christian church too, especially within the Christian church on what we may call the Celtic lands now. Now, rivers and their spring sources are especially important, especially associated with, again, what we might call Celtic traditions and the folklore you may be accustomed to in Ireland, Scotland, Isle of Man, through England too, and parts of Europe as well. Now, water sources are revered when we speak of divine mothers, goddesses, and especially the Sidhe. And even sacred bulls are associated with powerful water references. The Bowen story, if you're familiar with it, is very much a big one on that. Now, we still haven't got Peggy on, which is very disappointing. I hope she hasn't got any trouble. Let's see. I think I got a message. No, I haven't got it. She's... I'm going to send another one to her. She responded to the last one, but she's not on live yet. Anyway, I'm going to go on with a lovely poem film by Grace Jones. We had one earlier, and last week, due to moving and shuffling, I didn't have time to coordinate our guests of these video poems, because we've got a couple of beautiful poems into film, and it's nice to have people come on and introduce them, but unfortunately I couldn't coordinate that. Now Peggy seems to think she's backstage, but Penny seems to think, but I don't know, she's not in here. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to send her another link. She might be using an old link. Now, I'll just have to check. She says she's waiting here, but I don't see her at all. Now, right. I think whilst we're waiting, I'll see what your comments are saying. There we go. Hitting the thumbs up. Awesome. I caught a live, usually bedtime for me. S.S. Lee and Triona Kirk. Hello from Marburg, Germany, where the River Lahn flows through the town and makes the climate in summer very enjoyable and brings people together. That's definitely a water reverence, isn't it? Wonderful. Good morning to everyone from Birmingham. This is Wayne Bird. And good morning from Maryland, USA, Terry Slack. And Gary's here, and I'm getting Penny saying she's definitely backstage, but I don't see her on the screen at all. And anyway, Gary was saying he's having a lovely day in Ballyfermot, but I got to get on with the bargaining there. And Penny has actually dropped a note here saying she's having trouble getting in. So if you just, I'm going to just get another link off to Penny right now and see if we can get her in for her poem. Right, here we go. I'll try this. Right. I'll just send that off to her. And we'll see if we can get Penny on. Okay. Sorry that's not working out at the moment. Anyway, there's Lawrence Gorman here, who's appeared. And hello from somewhere, Dribna. There we go. Anyway, well, I hope we'll get Penny. But meanwhile, as I say, we've got this lovely poem by Grace. And it's really for the whole of May. It's beautiful because there are May Day traditions in this that now seem a long way away, such as the May bush with the yellow flowers. But there's hawthorn images in this because they're just in bloom. So here we go. Grace Wells. This actual poem is called Beltner Embodiment poem. Absolutely beautiful. And I'll get this lined up for you as our first guest. So here we go. Beltner Embodiment.
Beltner Embodiment. The festival for the first day of summer, celebrated on the half moon, the fesh of Laha Beltane, for the Queen of the May. A day of flowers and ribbon, a night of rushlight and fire, the cattle driven through the bright burning towards the summer pastures. The land unfurling her greening, the goddess pouring herself into the world to embody form, to cover the ground, invite her gardens to bloom. Catkin on the willow, flirtation and fertility legible on the air. The butterflies in a helix dance of life. Calf to the cow, lamb to the ewe. Foal to the mare, and the dawn chorus, a thick daily river of love. A time to celebrate the last storm, the last frost. For the Beltner fire is the last great fire of winter, a prayer of flame to mimic the sun, beseeching enough heat, enough rain for the harvest. For fire has power, and its light entreats the May Queen to protect the land, the crops, her creatures, her people. For whatever lives is vulnerable, and after the flames burn low, her ash is painted on the body, a ritual inking, a re-wedding of the body to the earth, a tattoo to celebrate the life within our limbs, to know that each small sensation, shiver, tremble, is our mother tongue. Our limbs, like the creatures and plants, not lesser, but other. Beltner, the invitation to open like apple blossom into our sweetness. And this, the season's gift, to savor the sensate world, to slip so deeply within ourselves as to stumble upon the divine.
And there we go. And that was wonderful from Grace there. And the absolute Beltner embodiment. Well, the good news is we have Penny with her poem. And I've got to put some pictures up in relation to this. So I'll get lined up. Right. And let's say hello to Penny. Penny Stevenson is on. How you doing there, Penny? Thanks. Here eventually somehow.
I'm sort of perched on the stairs here trying to get a good internet signal. It's a bit dodgy here at the moment, I think. So hopefully I won't.
Right. That's great. Is there a chance of a little bit more volume from your end?
See if I can do something with it.
You're looking good anyway.
not bothered. I've been out doing the garden and it's really warm.
You're very faint.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm covering the mic. Is that any
There
better?
you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. I think you're back on loud. Try again.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're loud enough. That's it.
Okay.
You just went faint for a bit. Hi, and so if you'd like to introduce your lovely poem for this time, it'd be lovely.
All right. This is a little poem that I wrote. I quite often go down the garden early morning, and luckily one day when I was down, I caught this beautiful image of this sort of like flames coming up as the sun just rose up at the bottom of the garden, and I was quite inspired by the view and everything, and it led me on to think a little bit about Bridget and about what I've read and learned about her actually through Nature Folklore. And this is how this poem kind of came about. It was just a little reflection on Bridget, the forge, the green grass, the water, which is also important to Bridget as well. And basically that's how this came about. Just a reflection on water and how important it is, and how necessary it is for all of us, and also how we probably take it for granted a bit.
Yes, definitely. So looking after all this, we're looking forward to hearing it. So it's beautiful.
Sorry about all the going.
Right.
Okay. At first light, I face east. Welcome, eternal flame. Rise up from Bridget's forge. Beneath my feet, bare in the grass, a cloud descended, opal diadems on every blade. A tracery of green against the silver dew shows footfall of woodland dweller passing through. The cool earth now, before the baking heat drinks the sacred waters, still and deep.
Oh, your mic's gone again.
Oh dear.
There you go. You're back again.
On the gentling breeze, the sigh of rustling leaves, trees by their nature quench the thirst. A robin bursts forth in streaming song, the sleeper awakens to this new dawn. I tie a ribbon on the hawthorn tree that guards the water for the she, a gift for them. Their gift to me, drink from the well and end your drought. Come away with us to the fairy mount.
Oh, lovely. Very different to the poem you sent to me, but very beautiful poem. So that was great.
It has developed since I sent it to you. This is what happened.
All right, because I got the words for the hawthorn tree here.
Yeah. Have you got? Oh no, have you got a different one? Have you?
Yeah, you sent me the hawthorn tree, and you sent me some photos of hawthorn as well.
Oh right. I thought I had. Oh. What have I done?
Oh, you've just done. You were about to do a second poem.
Am I?
I think if you got the hawthorn tree handy, yes.
Yes, I have. Hang on.
Right. Right. Penny is off to get the hawthorn tree because she sent me a bunch of photos, and if I can get back, yeah, she sent me a bunch of. There I am. She sent me a bunch of photos in relation to this one. And there's a couple of you. Beautiful Grace. A lot of people loving Grace. Beautiful Grace. There's Sherry. And Terry was beautiful poem with the video. Absolutely lovely. And Penny, and the first poem, greatly enjoyed there by Little Wing. Absolutely beautiful. It was a great start. And I believe you, once Penny's got the hawthorn tree, you'll love that one as well. And Claire says exquisite for the Grace poem as well. That's beautiful. Anyway, Penny sort of vanished, still vanished in the dark there.
Yeah, I think trouble as usual. Me and technology are not really. We're not really making it today. I don't think.
Are you back? Hello.
Hi, John.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, I'm having a bit of a difficulty because I'm trying to link into the where the poem is, and at the same time sort this out, and I'm not doing a very good job, I'm afraid. Oh,
so do you have the hawthorn? That's the lovely thing.
I do have the hawthorn tree, but I'm struggling to get it up so that I can actually read it to you. That's the trouble at the moment. These troublesome guests like me struggle with technology.
Yeah, you're gone again.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm having to dip into my sort of notes to get out the hawthorn tree, and I can't get it.
I tell you what, if I can come back to you in about 5 minutes, I'll carry on with the show bit, and we'll have that second poem, The Hawthorn Tree. That'd be wonderful. Thanks. Right, tech issues, not only me today. Anyway, I'd like to think for a moment about the Celtic concept of the other world. And this is revered as our main source of wisdom, as well as being the infinite life, the womb of all life is born. Now, the Celtic otherworld's always been told of as being and including a body of water. And let's get back to photographs, something like this as a body of water. And often these mythological sacred lakes, lochs that are within mountains. And sometimes they're told of as being realms below the surface of the lakes and seas. And from what I understand, with the next series of Avatar films that's coming up, they're really going into that concept, the realms of the underworld. So the Avatar films, I'm very intrigued to see how they interpret that. Anyway, from those otherworld stories, the tellings of gods and animals appearing from the water, or goddesses and gods assuming animal shapes such as wolves, horses, bulls, even great birds like eagles. And perhaps the most common and most persistent god or goddess identification is the salmon. So we can't go through this without the salmon, do we? And there's the artistic impression of the salmon grabbing the hazels to conjure up its infinite wisdom. So let's think of some descriptions of the hazelnuts of knowledge or wisdom. They're called both, salmon of knowledge, salmon of wisdom. I think I like the salmon of wisdom because wisdom is something that comes from right deep in the conscience and the psyche, whereas I think knowledge is something we kind of put together ourselves. Anyway, I'm splitting hairs with that. Anyway, this salmon, it releases bubbles. That's a bit of an art impression. If you see the salmon there, it's got some bubbles. And those bubbles are supposed to be, they pop at the surface and they're full of mystic inspiration that enchants us. And there's the story of Shannon flowing from Connla's Well as a popular story of this. And it tells of the 9 hazel trees of Crimmel, the sage. Perhaps he planted them, I don't know. I can't imagine that as being ownership. But these trees, they drop their nuts, their nut fruits, and they fell. And I did have a very good picture of this, but it's lost at the moment. But the nuts would fall, and they would get into a dark place in the well. And they're the nuts in the darkness that would absorb the power of the magic spells from the water, and the nuts would soften. And as the nuts were softened, the salmon would then come along and eat them, just like this salmon is having a go at here. Now, from the juice of nuts of the salmon form, up come these mystic bubbles from the salmon itself. And these bubbles are said to flow along the stream that emerge from a spring well. And when you visit spring wells, you notice the water bubbles from the underground and then it escapes down a little stream. So the bubbles floated along the little stream from the well. Most stories tell of Sinon today actually catching the salmon of knowledge and eating it. But I think what's happening there is that's getting mixed up with the Cuchulainn story. I'm not going to tell that one today because we were on Women and Water, but he is supposed to have caught the salmon and got his wisdom by cooking it up and eating it. Sinon, I think the story more of her absorbing the bubbles is perhaps more appropriate. It's a lesser told version, but that seems to make more sense. So we've got Sinon drinking the mystic bubble. She's got her face down and these bubbles are coming up and she's trying to see the salmon, but pop, 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 and there's the bubbles enchanting her from the stream. But the bubbles coming up more and more frequent and they're popping, and she actually drowned. There were so many bubbles that she drowned by them. And the stream just took her away down into the river and right down to the estuary. And by that time, she had become the she spirit that flowed back up the estuary of what is the River Shannon today. So Sinon is the goddess flowing with the river that today we know as the River Shannon. Now, a couple of months ago, I think it was Sarah Humble. That was the time Sarah Humble arrived at Carracrory Cottage. And I recorded an interview with her. It was well over an hour. And I chopped that up into video clips. Anyway, before I get on to that, Penny, I think, is back in action. So let's try Penny, and we'll have Sarah after Penny. All right, I think we're at an appropriate time. How are you doing there now? You're looking excellent. It looks like you got the poem ready for action. I've got to get the pictures ready for action, and we should be in good mode. Right. The floor is yours, Penny, for the hawthorn tree.
Let's hope it's the right poem this time.
Right.
The hawthorn tree. The tree, it is old, it is ancient. It bows to the westerly flows, tracing the form of serpents as the wind through her branches blow. A solitary on the green mound, a secret beneath the roots stood deep. Below the hillock is hollow, and it's here where the she lie asleep. In her boughs we birds hunker down, till the storms overhead pass on through. In the light the moon-silvered landscape, thorns hang with opals of dew. The berries of Samhain are gone now, picked clean by both bird, man and beast, giving strength to the heart and the stomach, to all who have tasted the feast. Resist from cutting her wood, hang a clootie instead on a bough. Be careful not to uproot her, or to cut her with scythe or a plough, for the she will rise up from their slumber. For them who has great sacred power, they'll steal away your wee babby, turn the milk of the cow to sour. At Beltane, bedecked like a bride, when the snows of her blossom abound, we dance round her sweet-smelling branches, atop of the sacred she mound. We give thanks to the goddess for your gifts, leaf, blossom and berry, as we dance on the eve of Lunasa, with hearts full of love and so merry. Above us, the curve of the heavens, paths of stars through the Milky Way drawn, by the feet of the goddess Olwen, from the flower of the lovely hawthorn. All year you provide us with goodness. At Albanarthan you gift us still more. From your boughs sacred mistletoe cut down, taken and placed on the tor. At the milk we plant out your children, as life force flows once again, to fill up our hedgerows with richness, with the warmth of the sun at Beltane. Where grow hawthorn, ash and oak, there you'll find the fairy folk. Oh, a sacred tree, always our protector be. To the south, keep safe our path, protect us from the fairies' wrath.
Hooray, we got it. That was lovely. It's a gorgeous poem. And thanks for persevering and getting through to that. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Penny, for pushing until we got that. Lovely. Keep those poems coming, and we'll see you again sometime. Thanks very much. Penny Stevenson at last with the second poem, and well worth waiting for. Let's see what you're saying. There's Claire's got to opt out now. Sherry, there we go. Sherry was saying something. Oh, that was beautiful, Penny. Thank you. You're a delight. And Claire was somewhere. She was right. Here we go. Gift Penny. I have to King of G. And thank you here from Little Wing. That's right. I think I've caught you up on that one. And as I was saying, I'm Shannon here. Dory Smith's on board, which is lovely, beautiful. Mary Cronin as well here. Beautiful poetry, Penny as well. Now, as I was saying, Sarah Humble, she was here, I think it was a couple of months ago. And I'm just going to get her lined up. I'm going through the same business, I think, as Penny here, because I've got to line up Sarah's poem. I think I'll have no problem with that. But anyway, she was talking in one of the clip I'm going to show you. Sarah was talking about, well, she was explaining the beginnings of reviving a beautiful heart-shaped well that's near Uisneach, and the breed as well of Kildare. Beautiful place to go. I think last time I talked about that here, and I think it's on the interview as well. I was talking about when Michael Jackson and his children actually visited there. I'm hoping that Sarah will actually be live with us again. She's talking about it. I'm not sure she's actually going to be in person at Carol Crawley or at least Donan, or whether she's going to be somewhere else and come over the airwaves. Anyway, she'll update us then if she can come on live on the transformation process with this beautiful Bridget's heart-shaped well. And also, she'll probably explain how it's nearly dead trees formed a substantial part of this year's Beltner fire on Uisneach. I think I showed the picture earlier. So I'm trying to get pictures up. That was the one I showed you earlier. I think let's bring that up again. That's that's Sarah sitting in it in the middle of the fire. She did manage to get out before they set it on fire. And from that time, there's a beautiful picture. I hope it comes up with the photographer's name here. There we go. That's a class one, because the dog's always sitting on her shoulder quite often, and you might see some of that in this interview. Fantastic photo. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with Sarah as well, and I'm going to have another go at bringing the video up, and here she's talking about the heart-shaped well amongst other things. So this is Sarah Humble and a lovely clip from her. And they should come on board for us. There it is. And here we go. Should be. No, that's Penny. Right, add the stream. Now, there you go.
What's the word I'm looking for? When I was pilgriming, Jane, through the wells from Torley Island to Uisneach, I think it was 2 years, 2020 now, I guess it was. We put out a call for the waters from around Ireland to be sent in and around Ireland to Bridget's well. And I was walking with no postal address, so the postman was very flexible. He was coming into the well and saying, I have post for Sarah Humble of All Is Well. Is there? And I'd say, yes, Misha. And, and also Women of the Water were very important in helping gather all these waters. So we ended up with 32 33 bottles of water from all over the country of pristine water, which we then alchemized, put all together into David Clark, who owns Ishnok's, Mammy's jam pot, which he dropped me down. Now, copper is really important in helping remolecularize water. It holds a slight energetic charge, which helps keep the purity. They use it hugely inside India to keep the waters pure. So we put it all inside there to increase the purity. And then after we had spent, I think it was a week cleaning Bridget's well, because it was the continuation of cleaning that well, because the guardian tree had been struck by lightning in 2017. And it had shorn off this giant branch. I think we have photos of it.
Yeah, I'll get those.
That when we did the first pilgrimage from Ballinskelligs to Tara through the wells, that was in 2020.
I'm premature.
So we're going back. That was still 2020 because the ash tree had shorn off by that stage.
Let's see if we got what's.
That's 220 again. That's Frank Doyle, the wonderful stonemason that comes around. And
that's something being.
No, that's 2018. So by that stage, there was all scruff. There we go. And you can see how the branch, sorry, I'm pointing at the screen. You can see how, I don't think it's on the back green screen. John.
No, it's not on the back screen at the moment. I can throw it on the back screen, all right.
Yeah, there we go. So you can see the size of the branch. So I had been struck by lightning, which had actually sent the shrine just behind your head on fire. The fallacy of as much as it is nice to leave offerings, sometimes they can be extremely flammable. And there were tons of rosary beads that had melted into the statue, which was painted as Mary, even though it's St. Bridget's well. But we rectified that as well by a wonderful woman. Bridget came and reclothed Bridget in her proper colors. But the fire had set the shrine alight, had made the whole branch fall in. So we called in a group of people to help remove the branch in that first walk. And I think we've got a few photos. Do you of that?
Is this the clearing of the branch going on?
No, that would be 2020.
Yes.
So
there's that one.
It was a different man in on top.
There's this one.
Well, no matter or no mind. We cleared a huge amount of it, and this stump that you see in this photo had been left over. So in 2020, this was us removing it, and I think I've given you a wee video of it removing. It is humongous. So this tree had laid inside. Now there was tale of druids using wands of oak and mistletoe and ash to stir the water to make it pure. So something inside the wood compounds definitely helped the purity of the water. So I really wonder what that ash tree laying in Bridget's well did to the help the purity of water. I feel like it stayed in there the right amount of time until we were able to actually remove it. But that was a lovely community effort in getting over a period of years in getting that well tidied up and cleaned up, because that well has had a wonderful well keeper, but he's gotten old over the years and he hasn't been well. So I think this is the time where people, if they step up in active participation in caring for these spaces without ownership, without advancement, when you care for these spaces, it's to care for it is to care for the ecology, to care for the future generations.
Stewardship.
That stewardship, that delight that you get every time you walk into that space. A curator, all of these beautiful things, that selflessness of giving something back. I think quite often we come to these spaces and we get so much and we feel so good, and we often forget to give back. And when you enter into that stewardship, it's just the satisfaction you get is like nothing else.
And true. So what's happening here? This is definitely in reference to women in the water.
Oh yeah, this was Shannon. So this was 2020, and Shannon and Karen came up, and they now. Given the time, it was in and around Samhain. So it was the end of October in this photograph. And Karen and Shannon stripped off down to their knickers and got in and were cleaning out a load of the plant growth that had grown in along. And the value of pulling out the plant growth, why plants have a really important root filtration system. It can begin to smother the actual well. The root system will clog the spring being able to come up, and it captures silt and dirt. Animals tend to live in the plant matter, so it doesn't necessarily help the purity. So it is really important to remove these things, you know, if you want to keep the health of the well. This being such a big well, I mean, this well is an Ishnok. And our ancestors built it in the shape of a heart. Ishnok is the
I'm
heart
glad you said
center.
that. That was going to be my next question. I might drag some photos up and put it in, but the heart shape of that is so incredibly symbolic of that. Because I was taking a mother and her quite severely mentally handicapped son around. I can't remember what the handicap was. He couldn't speak. But when we went round to Wells, she just wanted to go to Bridget's Wells with the son. And every time we went to a well, he would actually act out something about that well that I was familiar with, but the mother and him wasn't familiar with. And then when I got to this well, this one, I'll have pictures, I hope. When I got to it, Clare. I always get it mixed up. Yeah, Clare well next to Ushna Clare. And when we got there, he started getting into a moonwalk. You know, the moon dance walk that Michael Jackson does. And we thought, what's this all about? And he wouldn't stop doing it. He could actually do the moonwalk, and his mother hadn't even seen him do that. And then I heard stories later. I forget there's a recording studio nearby. And of course, Michael Jackson lived in the area.
Oh, no way.
You didn't know this story? No, he lived in the area for nearly 2 years. And he visited Klein, and apparently he'd have the wax coat and the cap like I got. And,
wow.
And they got local musicians actually to the recording studio. And they recorded, I gather, 100 to 120 tunes and songs. He actually sang cover versions of traditional songs. Plus, he had written his own. And one I always thought would be an absolute fantastic song for him anyway before this was Raggle Taggle Gypsies, because the rhythm in it, the rhythm of his voice, I thought that would be perfect. Apparently, he recorded it there. But unfortunately, the Jackson family, the mother especially, is refusing for the release because they think it will tarnish his image. But they're just sitting there in the studio for one day these will come out. But apparently, there were some of his original songs. And he used to take his children down to this heart-shaped well. And he got into the whole fairy mythology there. And while the children were hanging around playing, he would be writing songs that got recorded in the studio up the road by this well.
Well, I do think that, you know, these are very crossroads, these spaces, that you could absolutely meet anybody at a well.
Yeah.
You never know. And they do draw everybody. There's something very magical about them. Maybe it's just their therapeutic landscapes or, you know, places of peace that are bringing people. But that doesn't surprise me. Michael Jackson was down at Bridget's well at all.
Yeah, apparently he wrote a few things, but the family are holding on. No, they can't release it.
Well, let's hope for the
but
day.
I'd love to see the Raggle Taggle Gypsies, because when he was alive, I thought if he'd only record that, he'd suddenly be in the, you know, that would be terrific around the world, terrific for Ireland as well. All right, I think that's it. Hi, well, thanks very much there. Hello, everyone. Yes, that was great. Hopefully we'll have Sarah again next week. But that was a little bit on the heart-shaped well, and we'll get a continuation of that. And Shannon, who was in the middle of the heart-shaped well, looks as if she's in the back room. We'll talk to her about that very soon. But I'm going to move on because the Dinchinkas that was scribed late medieval, 14th, 15th century, it included beautiful references to the origins of rivers. But these stories were written in a very patriarchal style because that was the way the church would approve the work of the scribes in those days. But one story includes, that was put down in those set of poems, was the story of Bowen. And let's get back to some pictures again. There's an artist's impression again, and the storytellers were drowning in their own sacred waters. And Bowen said that she went to a secret well, which was in the fairy mound of Necton, and she wanted to test the well's power. So she walked from right to left and around the well 3 times, and then the water waves leapt from the well, covered her in water, and it ripped away her thigh, one of her hands, one of her eyes. Of course, the bardic tales have to bring all this drama in to keep people's attention and popularity. And then the water stream washed her seawards, and at the river estuary where the Boyne meet the sea, the fresh water met the seawater, she drowned. And from there, her release, she flowed back up the river Boyne, back upstream, and there she became the she spirit that was there to protect and defend. And she was the goddess of the Boyne. So around the world, also similar stories are attached to famous rivers such as the Severn in the UK, the Tiber, Jordan, Euphrates, and the Tigris. They all carry similar stories of girls transforming into goddesses and she spirits. And added to that are stories also of mountains and underworld spaces that are the source of world's rivers. Right by where I am now, there's definitely a famous one. But all of these sources from these mountains, again, the stories that go about them all being connected to a center point in the earth. There's also told of having a singular mother spirit of all. So near here, as I say, we've got the hill of Kishkoran, and the story tells of that once being the source of 4 rivers from a mystical loch in the middle of the mountains. It's said to have been the original source of the Shannon. That's controversial, but there's some local stories around here, especially related to Carrickeel. And I talked earlier about the rights of water, and it's said that civilizations came here because of the access of water in this particular area. That's why perhaps the Carrickeel below that is one of the oldest settlements that you'll find on the island of Erin, but as well as the Shannon, the Groyne. I might put a Groyne picture up in a minute for my background, and also the Breege, the Bridorg, and the Unshin, or the Unshin going north, the only river that goes north. Now, at the hill of Ushnak, there's stories of an ancient event there that caused 12 chief rivers to be sourced from there. And I wish there was a more profound reference of that within major documentation. I wish the actual Ushnik Mayfire Festival made reference of that more so. Now, Sarah Humble did try her best to bring about the water inclusion there at the Ushnik Fire Festival. But for most people that were there, it was the big fire that was the symbol. Much more than what I regard, and I talked about last week, the spring process of fire and sun warming the water on the earth, as that's what happens in May. Now, a quick version of the Ushnik water story is that during the council assembly that was held there, an assembly that was called upon by Dermot, the son of Kerbal, there was a great hailstorm that fell down on the Ushnik right in the middle of their council meeting, and it was so intense, and it melted as it hit the ground, and with the warm midday sun melting it as well, a great pool formed, and it was like a flood on the top of the Ushnik hill, and it soaked down into the hill, and that water pushed out from the base of the hill underground, and what was emerged was the 12 springs that formed the 12 chieftain rivers. Sorry, I haven't got the 12 names of the rivers, but they became chief river streams, and it said those 12 rivers watered and nourished fertilized Ireland to ensure good summer cropping forever. But of course, we assume it was the strong spirit of women of water that pushed out this water as springs. The women, like within Ushnik, the underground she and the goddesses below, as we know them. But the Ushnik water story, that was changed. It was later Christianized and changed into an attribution to St. Kieran, who he said performed a miracle there to end a long drought that had been happening in Ireland. Anyways, that's that. Or natural springs, people congregating around them with reverence, thanksgiving, even worship, has had some kind of spiritual continuity within human life, probably more than any other kind of religious-minded or linked activity, and certainly much more than within circles and sanctuaries around trees. Although we have reference to trees because they are the holders of water, as certainly part of it. But we know these water springs best as being holy wells today, due to their Christianization again. But one task I find interesting is track down the naming of rivers. I love this. And we have one interesting one not far away from here that's boringly known as the Shannon Erne Waterway. And that connects with the River Shannon. It goes from the Shannon, it's a navigation from the River Shannon to the Loch Erne, and they just call it the Shannon Erne Waterway. But not so long back, this was known as the Woodford River, and I'm going to use this as an excuse. I've got this lovely picture. I used it as my profile today on Facebook. So let's get into the mood for this one, and I'll get you the background up. It should be here. Here we go. This is my favorite part of it. It's kind of the north end of this Machlecht, which is famous for the crack stories from near Ballyconnell. But that's it. It's a lovely piece of peaceful navigation. Anyway, it was known as the Woodford River, but more important, before that, it was known as the Groyne River. And Groyne is part of that Lunacer because of the ripening of the grain. Groyne is a sort of goddess of the sun, of the ripening and the rising sun. And you probably know some things about that. I was going to show another picture, but it seems to have escaped on me. Anyway, I'll just give you a front picture of that one. There you go. That's it. And we were on a boat on that one, and it's absolutely beautiful. It goes on for a few kilometers like that, with that woodland at the side. And it's a lovely barrier between the agricultural land and the water. And I talked about this a few weeks ago, of how these barriers of trees, they keep the water clean and protect them from the runoff from the agriculture and from the cows coming down. So there's a lovely example, and that's a natural one. Anyway, when we looked into the folklore of Groyne, all kinds of revelations of the river inspires you, and it draws a connection to the river much more than the name of Shannon Erne Waterway could ever do. But most of all, where there's water, I love to try and connect any fragment of the folklore that connects to its place and space, especially if it's helps with telling more about the life-giving she upon us. Now, the next guest is another video and a production by composer and producer John Bowker, who you're probably very familiar with. And John is working with a suite of productions known as the Heart Song Project. And John Bowker is probably better known to some of you as the facilitator of Earth Song camps. Some of you watching may have been to these Earth Song camps. And also, he's well known for his workshops in tribal spirit drumming. Now, the song on this upcoming video, it was brought to my attention by a singer known as Brini Kushak, who sings lead here. But unfortunately, Breed and John, they couldn't be live with us today to explain this and introduce this video. But Breed sent me some background info, and I'll share that with you. Now, the song that's coming up on this video is the Brian Big Burn, One Small Drop of Water. It's a blessing song for newborns and infants. And the words come from the text of the Kamina Dalika. It's a lovely collection of invocations. That's the cover, an old cover of it. It's a collection of invocations collected by Alexander Carmichael, and Carmichael is very much an Inner Hebrides name. And it was collected 150 years ago, and so most of his resources were from the Scottish Hebrides and also from parts of mainland Argyll, Argyll. And this particular poem that's been used here, or this chant, was sourced from a Mary McNeil, a crofter, and that's also a very common name in those parts. So she probably wasn't called Mary McNeil. She'd be called over what the name of the croft is, like we have the townlands in here in Ireland, because there's so many Mary McNeils. But I'd love to know what her croft name was, because that would have been her name. Anyway, she explained that when a woman is bathing, blessing, maybe baptizing a baby child that's just been born, She moves 9 little wavelets over the water. If you can imagine that. I wish I had a video or something. Like you get the baptism, 9 little wavelets is put over the infant. And that confirms the birth out of the sea of the womb onto the shore of the earth. Beautiful little thing. I'll repeat that. 9 little wavelets of water flowed over the infant to confirm the infant's birth out of the sea of the womb onto the shore of the earth. So that's what this is about. No actual tune came with these words. So John Belcher composed a 4-part harmony, and he arranged it initially for community choirs, but in this recording, he has 3 singers. The Breeds in it, Breed and Cusack, and Catriona O'Sullivan's another one. And John Belcher, who arranged this, he's actually got his voice in the background as well. Now, in this film, you'll see a Bullhorn stone, and that was a sacred water stone used medieval times. And we actually have an unlisted one here in the tree labyrinth. I'm going to, it's now in the Lichte de Danum, where I live now. Anyway, scenes from this video, they're not from Scotland, but they're from beautiful landscapes in Clare and Kerry. So after all that, here's the Heart Song production of Braun Big Burn, One Small Drop of Water, absolutely beautiful. So here it is.
To guide you.
Ah, wonderful. That's One Small Drop of Water, the Heart Song Project. Absolutely brilliant there. And there's a picture that's ahead of myself there. Thank you, Sarah. Work is important from Sherry there has come up as well. And yes, thanks very much. Right. So the one thing, whether we explore mythology and folklore of the deeds of our day-to-day living and survival, we discover and realize that it's women that usually protect us and provide us the water. So much so, it's not just here, it's through Africa, South America, India, other so-called developing nations. Women are gradually transforming from being long-distance carriers of water, which I was showing there. That was the film picture that was ahead of itself, and to being engineers. The women themselves have become engineers that create and distribute their own village water supplies. And before these people had the resources to bring water to their homes, it's amazing how much time women around the world actually served of their lives in just being water carriers. It's what they did every day, was go to the water, collect the water, bring it back, and that was their day. So the time used up deprived them of education, spending quality time with the families, and it was dangerous too. They'd get to the water and the crocodile would snap up over them. Very dangerous stuff. So having time to run practical craft business, for example, to get a bit of another income stream in, and also to see the family, for many women, it took a while before they could organize their lives. And here's a cartoon of it. For women, water became the top priority in their lives above everything else. And there's the children and everything else. But she is holding the water. That became the top priority, and everything else came after. And collecting water, as I say, dangerous too, time-consuming, predator animals. But water itself, once they collected it, was often unfiltered, dangerous in itself. And also young girls would go with their mothers as well, and that would deprive them of education and any additional living. Now, another benefit of local engineered water, instead of gathering, is the ability to filter it and clean it so it's safe. But Saturday, and being a man myself, a common setback with water is actually to let men be part of the engineering of it. Women are psychically there of understanding the source, its transport, the provision, the distribution. And women seem to instinctively know about water, how to make it flow into the right places. So women in water is not just the mythology, it's what actually goes on around the world on the surface as well. And one practical example of water is their understanding of the needs of water. Of course, it's an understanding and the need to for the menstruation, hygiene, the health, and their privacy as well. That's something men wouldn't have a clue about, especially in reference to privacy needs. So there's a partnership potential with the water supply. Men seem to be very good at getting the materials for the projects, for bringing water to the village. So there's a wonderful balance. Give them the shopping list of the parts, and they'll counsel and trade to get the best deal, the best suppliers, and let the women do the engineering. So they're very good for planning. Obviously, women with their natural connection to the water comes out in logical, practical skills for the engineering and even the assembly for the flow of water. Now, something I'm sure Shanna's going to be talking about in a minute is the ongoing Dawn Meats problem. Their effluents from their factory being planned to be dumping into the River Boyne, the processing waste. And that's got horrible potential. And the current campaign and quest is to actually block and ban that waste from happening. Now, what if we looked at this as another way? It might be controversial, what I'm about to say, but what if women took over the engineering of that project to ensure a safe alternative, an alternative that's safe, earth-respecting, but it's quite a hurdle encouraging such alternatives because the intimidation they're likely to get from the men reacting to their caring alternatives. I think the intimidation could be mighty. But unless the men could see more cash flow from the women's alternative ideas, it's a bit of an no-go, unfortunately. But I'm thinking of this because a lot of women would eat the meats coming from Dawn Meats too. But what would happen if they engineered what would happen to the waste? I don't think we'd have a poisoned Boyne if that was happening. Anyway, for many people today, they've been displaced from the land and culture of their ancestors, raised in westernized social networks, and it's a strange and mysterious quest to restore, try to get back to our ancestry and restore our true indigenous mindsets in a way of walking and living in this world. Did my or your ancestors once walk harmoniously with the land? Are we helpless and hopelessly stuck with having what seems to be the permanent status of being like colonizers? Or do we feel still like as if we're refugees on this land, or immigrants, or descendants of immigrants, or even do we have little fragments of feeling like we're slaves or being descendants of slaves? Or do we feel like we're displaced and brutalized people with feelings like we live with a legacy of either colonization or stolen land? I think there's a lot psychically there where we're locked into identities that we seem to have been raised with. So is there a way or ways of overcoming all this demoralization and being owned? And if we can, if overcome this, we'll restore the authentic connection to our ancestral practices. So could we ever consider repatriation of land and get our land back? Or could we just call that rematriation? That seems to be a better word, isn't it? So today's theme, thought and contemplation on women in water, to me is much more than focusing on stories of wells, earth goddesses, fairies, the she, but maybe on putting all of these stories together into the good and caring use. But seemingly the primitive role of women living and bringing water to their families, and villages being safe seems very unfulfilled. Though in some ways, it's like women are living a she-water purpose, but doing it on Earth. And somehow that seems very unfair. Faith in the she and entities of water, I feel, is very essential in the mentoring, inspiration, and certainly encouragement towards respect, protection, and provision of water, and especially learning the crafts of engineering skills to make water supply to your local people easier, less time consuming. So she's been sitting patiently here. We've got Shannon in the background. Give us a lovely, I haven't got a clue what she's going to talk about, but hopefully she's going to bounce on some of the things I was saying. Thank you for holding on, Shannon. Hello. Good afternoon. And if you might recognize Shannon from standing in the middle of the heart-shaped well.
That was a great day. That was a wonderful
It was
project.
wonderful.
Experience.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me, John. This has been a fascinating and beautiful hour and 20 minutes. This has just been a wonderful session. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I'm saying thank you for the patience of holding on. We usually go on to an hour and a half anyway, but I knew this was going to extend a bit. So, what would you like to point out of what's been talked about today? Because I got you at the end, because everything I spoke about, it seems, is very much in your work and your theme and passion with women of the water.
Absolutely. I mean, you covered so much territory in such a short amount of time, and with so much depth of understanding. It was really just beautiful. I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about either. Really, I kind of just. I've been out on the land for the last couple of days. I'm here in Ishmore, actually out on the Aran Islands, and I kind of felt compelled to come down to the well, to one of the wells, to be here for this call. And as I was listening to all the stories that were told, I realized why I was here, because you've mentioned so many parts of this landscape already. I'm actually at the site of, you can see in the background there, that is Temple Kieran. From the different parts of the church are 5th century, 12th century, 15th century, and we're here beside the the hawthorn tree. And I suppose I could switch this around. It might be a little easier. Can we do that?
You should be able to.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
There we go. So this is, she's only got her blossoms over on this side, but after all the winds we've had. But this is the one spot on the island where people are still coming to tie the prayer ties. And this is adjacent to this well site. And it actually is one of the spots where people still come to practice doing the rounds. And we have this little bowl of stones that people can take from. And I think normally it's 7 times around, but it's interesting. I was here the other day with another woman of the water, Emily Bishop, and we were just sort of coming over to pay our respects. And I felt called to do the rounds, but I just did 3. And you mentioned that 3 earlier, 3 times around. So it just sort of feels like a bit of a weave, and you would come.
It sounds like the waves of water have gone over you and taken you to the end of the island.
Come and there bless yourself.
We're losing your voice a bit. You might have gone out of, you might have just stepped out of the reception circle.
The water, and you can see it's quite low. Wanted to bring you,
right.
You all here. There's something about this ancestral recovery practice. I love that you started with the embodiment poem. And I think that's something we're having a lot of conversations about now, working with women and working with water and working with this ancestral recovery path, and really understanding that it has so much to do with our ability to feel. It's like you were saying, what would happen if the women took over the engineering of the water? And there's something about being able to really tune into that felt sense in the body, which I think is that connection, the moon time connection, the way that the water is flowing, the way that the menstrual cycle is moving, the way that the moon cycle is going on around us, and how we drop back into those seasonal calendars. And I think this kind of devotional practice, that's how I call it, is a really beautiful and authentic way to reconnect. I'm here with my bare feet on the ground. I'm getting dirty, lying on the soil. I am down into the body of the mother and with her water. And there's this humility as well. I'll just say one other thing about that when we come and do the rounds and we make our offerings, sometimes we'll put down, tobacco, like you might if you were on Turtle Island. Sometimes I carry water from another holy place and put that at the entrance to the place where I'm going to, this practice of carrying water. And there's just this wonderful sense of humility to come and make those offerings, to connect, to ask permission to enter, to come into direct relationship with the guardians of the land and of that holy place, and then to be able to receive that water and carry that water away for another sacred purpose. And there is an authenticity in that, and there is a humility in that. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I loved. I didn't know what you were going to say, but it's been gorgeous, because what you've done in a few minutes is given your own expression of a roundup of all the stuff I've been saying for the last hour or so, and you've managed to knit it together in about 3 or 4 minutes. Absolutely beautiful. So I thank you for that, and the various references and sewing it all together, engineering it all together, of course. So
I think it's a wonderful suggestion.
Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. And so I wonder if there could ever be a Dawn Meets alternative. It's a difficult proposal to make, but it's most practical, I would have thought. It reminds me of
oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, it reminds me of a water scheme when we were visiting North Carolina. In North Carolina, there's the Kittiwah Mound, which is like a central reverence point I'm trying to think of the tribe there. It's regarded as the Mother Mound anyway. And there was a water company, or was it a power company? I think it was Duke or something like that. Anyway, they wanted to flood this whole area where this mound was. And the local tribal council was saying, look, there's a much better place. Your water would be better. The land is cheaper. And they really had to, they understood how the land and the water flowed. But at the same time, putting it over to the power company, look, you're going to save a lot of money by going over there. And eventually they managed to break down the egos. Well, we've decided we're going here. But they managed to move them over, and they preserved the Kittiwah sort of mound area. So that was wonderful. And so that's what inspired me to think of the Dawn Meets and the engineering. In that case, it wasn't necessarily women, it was an indigenous tribe that was saying, look, this is what you can do. But with the psychic relationship with women, that's why I put that one through. Anyway, I'm bumbling on. I've been on an hour and a half, and I hope we'll get you back again, Shannon. It was wonderful to get those few minutes with you, and have a wonderful time there in the Aran Islands. Bye. Thanks very much. Oh, wasn't that wonderful to finish off with Shannon there? Beautiful there. So I better tell you what's coming up. Nature Folklore sessions on the 29th of May. That's next week. We're going to have more water folklore. This is going to be more the caring of sacred wells, and hopefully we'll get Sarah back for you on that. I'm trying to get some pictures on that. And this is our local well. Someone putting the British cross in there. That's why I'm using it as a logo for that one. And 5th of June, that's the start on a new series. It's going to be a 4-Sunday series, very relaxed one. It's going to be summer blooming. So it's very much related to our garden sanctuaries, and hopefully we'll have several guests in their garden sanctuaries share with us on that. Now, on the 12th of June, I was going to be centered on sound bathing, but I'm not sure who our guests will be for that. And I might even change this one around. I'll let you know next week what will happen there. Because on the 19th of June, the Midsummer Gathering, I might make that the 12th of June, even though it isn't midsummer, and bring the sound bathing to the 19th. Anyway, I'll let you know more about that. But the one on the 26th, definitely keeping to this one. Do I have a picture for that? Let's see. It's going to be the rewilding ourselves. That's going to be the 26th of June, and that's going to end that June series. So let's see what you're saying here. Thank you, Shannon from Penny. And Triona was saying about her granny here that she had a talent for dowsing rod, and she used that for planning the garden, which is fantastic. Nourishing here is Susan. There's water. Thank you, John Bowker, for that one. So that seems to be your comments today. Been a lovely show. As I say, this is all made possible by all you lovely people that are subscribers. And some of you, because the subscribing involves PayPal, you can just use a card through Buy Me a Coffee as well. That just goes through Stripe, regular, what most cards do these days. So there's that option as well. All appreciated. It helps to keep me afloat and keeps the bill is covered to keep this for you. And here's the savetheboyne.org coming in from that. Certainly keep up with that website there. Very important. And there's Penny here, feeling very blessed with all this, John, knowledge and heartfelt presentations. And thank you, Penny. I'm glad we got you on in 2 parts there. That was terrific. Brilliant. And there's Shannon saying appeal to APB Tuesday, and you'll find all that in the Save the Boyne as well. And she talks about observations as well that can be submitted. Again, go to that savetheboyne.org, see what observations are. It's a little bit more, observations is more the people could submit with than the actual planning. With the planning, you needed qualifications, which a lot of people didn't have. It's very complex of that, but observations is something that can be done by the public. Wayne says thank you. Thank you, Wayne, for being with us as well. Thank you all. I think we've covered pretty much all. Any questions you got, do fire them. And thank you so much. Who's this? That's Susan Sheldon. Thank you very much. So thanks again. Some lovely guests today. Penny Stevenson, who we got on and off, was fantastic. Grace Wells, Sarah Humble. Then we had Breed and John, the people of the Heart Song Project, and then finished off with Shannon Michaela, Dory Smith, which was a lovely roundup. And if you're watching this after the broadcast as an archive, please keep commenting, because I do return to answer comments from time to time. If you see the bell, especially YouTube people, click that and you get reminded of what the next Sunday session, the next Nature Folklore session is going to be. So thank you so much for that. I don't see any more comments. So it's just for me wishing you a safe week full of wonder, great inspirations, revelations and contemplation, especially with water. So until next Sunday, play well, be well, enjoy every moment. And that's all I have today on Woman and Water. Thanks you so much for staying with us. It's been fun being with you with us. Thank you. Bye-bye.